Hello everybody and welcome to Rocket Lasso Live. Let's try this again. Right as I unmuted my microphone and clicked to switch to my camera, the entire thing froze up and wouldn't do anything. So I just made a new link on YouTube. Everything should be fine on Twitch, and hopefully people can find the new link for the YouTube stream. But without wasting any time, let's go ahead and bring our guest on here. We have Jess Herrera. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, Jess is extra dedicated here because it is currently 5 a.m. in Australia right now, right?
Yep.
Is there even any light outside yet?
Can you see my window? It's pitch black.
Oh, I thought that was a turned off TV.
No, it's a window. Yeah, it's very dark outside.
Yeah, so you used to be a regular in the chat back when you were on UK time, but now you're back in Australia, so makes it tricky, but we tried to give you lots of warning that this was coming. So you made it. You're awake. Thanks for joining us.
I'm awake.
So before I'm going to pass over to Jess for her to show you a little bit of her work and her background. Before that, everybody start getting links together, but it doesn't have to be a link. It can be a question. You can type out a question. If you're on YouTube, you have to type out the question because it doesn't allow links. Twitch, you can post a link if you want to. The deal today is we're going to be focusing on Jess's specialty, which is character stuff. So that's both character animation, character modeling, character rigging. So that's going to be our focus, but we're not necessarily limited to that. That's just an area to focus. So that's a challenge for everybody in the chat to try and find cool questions along those lines. But let's go ahead and pass this over to you. I'm going to switch it to your desktop. Hopefully that is still up and working, and you can show us some of your stuff. Come on, switch.
Can it see? Can you see it? Can you see
we're still live, but it looks like... Oh, it went... Wait.
There we go.
Oh, it took a while.
Yay! That's the noise it makes. This is my website. I thought it was nice just to show off my little dinosaur. Yeah, I do characters. Here's some work that I've made. I'm really bad at selling myself. I like to go on my Instagram. It looks nicer. Here we go. Here's my Instagram. I like dinosaurs.
Fuzzy Dino series, which are great.
Yeah. Here's my beautiful computer, which I am not currently on because I'm on my laptop for the webcam. But yeah, this is my work. Yeah. Anyway.
So what kind of background do you have as far as where you've worked and what you're up to these days?
So I'm a freelancer now. I was working, I've been full-time for at least 6 years, I think, at different companies. Last company was Animate in London. But because of the pandemic, I had to come back to Australia. So now I'm here. But I went freelance before the pandemic. And yeah, I'm just, chilling. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really bad at selling myself, guys.
That's all good.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So what kind of work did you do at Animate?
Mostly character stuff. I did a bit of 2D as well, but I try not to do that now that I'm like freelance. I don't really have any of the stuff up there because we did a lot of stuff for like Facebook and stuff like that, so a lot of that stuff I can't show. But I did a lot of like passion projects, which was cool. Let's see, I did this Bean Man. I made this. This was one of my very first projects that I did at Animate. I worked on the crazy hair bubble
With Bubble
Bubble
Wrap. And then
Lady.
you lent me that character for my
Yeah.
R23 video showing off some
She's
character tools.
she's so famous. Yeah, there she is. That's the full render.
That's a great character.
Yeah, before then, that was all this stuff was when I was at Graham in Melbourne. Sadly, they've now gone freelance. They were a duo, but they're gone to crazy cool places like Marley's now working at Buck, which is awesome. And then before that was mostly all personal work.
So you actually started and you did school in Maya, right?
Yes, yeah. So like this project was done in Maya. This one's in Maya. When I first started using Cinema 4D was like when I won it at NodeFest, which was I won a competition with my housemate Glenn Morales. We did this project and won a full license of of cinema. And so when I won it, I was like, well, I better start using it. So then I experimented and did this project, this one. I really didn't know what I was doing at the time, but then now I just basically use it 24/7. I do like occasionally get hired to use Maya, which is fine. I've done maybe like 6 jobs in Maya since I started freelancing, but majority of the stuff on my now that comes up on my Instagram or my Twitter, these are all Cinema and Redshift. So yeah.
And along those lines, the first question coming in is somebody asking if you can go over your process for creating the fuzz on your fuzzy dinosaurs. Now, if this is a trade secret and you don't want anybody to know, feel free to say no.
It's actually really simple, guys. I just found like a really shitty, I don't know if I can swear.
It's fine.
A really bad like felt texture that was super pixelated. I basically like use that and then put fur over the top. I think
if you want to open up one of your files.
Yeah, I can open one up.
You're still stealing.
I'm going to move this over here. I don't want you guys to see my anything that you shouldn't see, because I have some stuff on here that were with clients that I can't say I worked with. So,
yep.
A few seconds. I will open.
Tobias is
my computer's really slow.
Oh, that's all good.
Huh?
Tobias is saying it's 5 a.m. Of course, you're allowed to cuss.
Okay, so, I found my file.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I had to pull a whole bunch of things from my desktop onto here because this usually doesn't live on here. So, so I guess I'll show you. So I've got I didn't use bones for this. I just used deformers and pose morphs.
Really?
Yeah. This was I basically made this in one day. I hit 10K followers on Instagram and I was like, oh, I better make something.
So is that so like the main like 0 that you have there, is that something you made from like a spline and then swept, or is that like a big deformed?
Oh, that was actually, I modeled that one in. I basically, because here we go. This is the base model. Maybe I'll zoom in. Oh, the scene's really big because it's like very 2D. Oh, my computer's like, ah! Yeah. Here's my little guy. Look at his face! Ah! Yeah. As you can see, he's got hair all over him, so that's kind of how I got away with the 3D-ness of the hair, but then the actual shader, I'll open that one up. Yeah. So I had this fabric, which you can just see. I don't know if I can open it. Can I show this?
If you click edit image, it might pop open into like Photoshop or something.
Oh, here we go. You can see that now.
Yeah, okay.
You can see how pixelated it is. I don't know where I found this. Like, I think it was just on Google. I might have even like screenshotted it or something. But yeah, that one I used predominantly a lot more than the actual colored one, because the colored one was in red originally, and I put a color correction on it to change the color. I also used the gray one and used the color correction on there just to get some of the real contrasty parts, and then I put it into a composite, and then I had another one. I don't know if people use it this way. I just couldn't get the right color, and then because I used noises on it as well. No one judge me for how I do my weirdos. I tend to use too many nodes, and then so I got like 2 other noises that I put on top of it.
Is that just to like break up the pattern or create more micro detail? Yeah,
so I think it was, so I did something else. I remember, this is months ago now, but I remember I wanted it to be super contrasty, and have splotches of darker spots and lighter spots, because if you look at like felt textures, they have like hairs that are like super white in there and then really dark pieces in there. So then, basically, the noises are to break that up, and then also the black and white image I think I used a multiply on it, and then I used it, I don't remember what I did, oh my god. I did some things, and then, I just kept color changing things, like I've multiplied that noise on there, and I multiplied that noise on there, and then, and then a bump map.
Yep, fed into a color channel. I don't know, you don't want to beat your laptop up too much, but could you get kind of close up on the dinosaur's head and then turn off the hair, and we can see what it looks like with just the material?
I'll definitely turn off the hair.
And then it'd be good if we could do it with the hair off and then do one with the hair on, but I know your computer might yell at you.
Yeah, this I didn't make this one on this laptop, so it looks really silly.
Well, I mean, any material, and you're doing exactly a trick that I like talking about, which is like you can get a pattern, if you tile it enough times, it's going to look all right. And then you do a couple large breakup patterns with like cinema noises, and it takes your eye away from the repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that felt material goes a long way by itself.
Related, sorry, but
is that just bump? I mean, it still seems kind of spiky, or is it just the material?
Nah, that's just the material, and also you can tell by the side, like there's no displacement on there.
There's a surprising amount of depth to it, considering you're talking about how low res the image was.
Yeah, that's the amount of times that I put all the noise and then crunching all the values like crazy.
So is the computer going to explode if you turn the hairs back on?
It might. I think last time I tried to render this on this computer, it took like 4 hours per frame. So I'm a bit skeptical about turning on the hairs. I'll try.
Okay.
I'll try.
If you disappear, we'll understand what happened. But the stream is still coming through nice.
I haven't moved anything. I'm a bit scared.
Yeah, just it's extracting new geometry, generating new hairs. We'll give it a moment.
There we go. Oop, there he is.
Yeah. Oh, that's not so bad. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you just a few. I mean, how? Just estimating, like, how many hairs do you think you put on it overall? I mean, the entire character is going to require a lot, but probably like hairs per inch type of thing. This is probably pretty mild.
Yeah, because I have lots of different shapes and stuff. I had so many, but this one's the base layer of the main body. It has this many there, and then this many in the actual hairs that render out. I don't know if I did clone. I cloned it twice. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's for some reason. I don't know if this is true or not, but when I do the cloning and have this value at a lower value, sometimes it makes it faster. But don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I
for
don't
some
know.
reason
It could be true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Someone's asking, well, somebody's just asking, how did you get such nice lighting? But do you have any kind of background education in lighting? Because it's so soft and friendly looking overall. Like you clearly are trying to make it look inviting. So how do you go about thinking about lighting?
Lighting is probably my weakness, I reckon, out of everything. I'll turn this off just so that I don't break anything. But I'll show you what I've got here. I haven't got any HDRI in here, but my main light is coming from the back to be like a pretend sun. Mm-hmm. And then I just had little highlights because, as you can tell, my characters are like here, and then the background is like all the way out there to get that 2D perspective. Mm-hmm. I've got the lights shining on the background just specifically to try and make the background look like it was kind of lit like mountains. I guess I can show you on here. Like the original, this is the original. But you can see, like I wanted that, you know, like sunlight has that really nice, harsh shadows kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But then I just used, oops. No, wrong one. Oh my God, I opened the wrong one. I have too many cinemas. This one's not going to work because I've got it on my other computer. Yeah, and then, so I have like a small, faint rim light there. And yeah, so basically, how many lights did I use? There's a few small ones, like for the eyes and stuff, but you can see like I've got a couple in the background just to light up certain bits at the back. This is the main sun. I don't know why I called it sun and fake sun. We got the sky, as this is like the blue light that I used on the background. And then a bounce light, which is for the side, and then this one is just at the top as like the sky. I don't know.
Well, you're saying lighting's a weakness you're claiming, but you have a lot of lights here that seem to have a lot of intention behind them, so...
I tried to like I guess like one of my very first jobs I worked at my actual university that I went to. I worked with the astrophysics guys, and the guy there he used to be an engineer and then went into filmmaking, and they were making like IMAX films for that were like funded by Swinburne, and because he was like super into the whole background of how cameras worked and how lighting worked, he actually sat me down for like a month and just like, oh my God, it was actually really scary because I'd come in and he'd have all these tests for me, and we'd go into like into the theater, and you'd be like, light this, and then I'll have like physically moving lights with the light boxes and stuff, and he's like, why did you do it that way? And I was like, I don't know, maybe to make it look nice. And he's like, think of Rembrandt lighting and all this stuff. So in that time of me sweating in pain, I actually learned a lot about, like, if you're going to put a light in there or change the camera, something about the camera, it's, you know, everything has to be for a reason. I don't just do it and then, I don't know. A lot of that stuff, like, left my brain once I left the job, especially, like, I was using 3ds Max at the time, and once I left the job, I was like, I just don't want to know anything technical anymore. Like, I was like, ah! But yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, it looks like some of it's still sticking with you.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's too many lights or too little lights. Usually I only start off with 3. It's like the front one, which is like slightly off the camera, and then one from behind for like a bit of, I don't know, atmosphere, and then the rim light to give that nice rim, and then I just put in more.
I've actually got my own question here, which is I only found this out recently, but Redshift does a really good job of interpreting cinema's like automatic interpreting Cinema's hair object and Cinema's hair material into kind of itself. So do you make new Redshift hair materials, or do you just let it translate from the Cinema one?
Yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing. This is the first project I did on my own with Redshift, and I just left it like whatever that is.
Sure. Yeah, no, it does a good job. And I'm not even sure, maybe somebody in the chat knows, but I think that first node there is a special node that they made that isn't, it's extracting the data from Cinema. Those are like that's all the data from the hair object, and then it's inputting it into the Redshift equivalent. So it's kind of smartly linking all of those together. That's my assumption.
I think in another one of my projects, I actually played around with this when I started getting a bit more confident. I think it was, where's this one? My little Rambo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played around with I'm pretty sure, like, because when I did the white hair, and I don't have this project on this computer, I figured no one really wanted to look at weird anime-looking characters, so... But this is, like, very Twitch right now, because he's a Twitch streamer. Yeah, I played around with the white hair because I couldn't get the right color when I was doing it. The dark hair was straight out of this node, but I think I started breaking things, like, and then started just playing around with things. I can't remember exactly what I did. That was a couple of months ago. These things are all experiments to me.
Oh yeah, is anything ever not an experiment? If you were to take any project and work on it again and work on it more and work on it more, would there ever be a point you'd be like, oh, this is a complete professional final file? Like, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt almost anyone would ever think or say that.
Mind you, like, I've done this dinosaur that many times now that, you know, you'd think that I would have finessed it, but no, I literally churn out those dinosaurs in, like, an hour after work if I have an idea. So it's like, oh, do another one. So I just, like, chop the whole body off, stick a new neck on it, still has the same face, and then, you know, go from there, change the colors. It's actually kind of tricky changing the colors on my nodes because I have so many hue shifts in all of them. Like, I think this one, this one, this one. Yeah, another hue shift there. And then these ones I got, like, color in there too, so I got to change all those. Yeah, so that's probably the hardest part of the whole process is changing the color. Oh yeah, and the hairs as well. I've got all the hairs to change the color of too. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, let's move on to somebody had a question about silly question, but when importing a forward kinematic rigged character model, is there an easy way to switch an FK model to an IK model?
Oh, yeah. So that you gotta do that in Espresso, like, to get that switch. It's been a while since I've had to do one of these, but if you had it already, like, because if you've got FKs, obviously you only got the joints and you just rotate each joint. When you got the IK, obviously you got the IK interpolation on it. But what you got to do basically, oh man, I don't know if I can. I think I've got to remember how to do this. So it's been many months since I've done this. Anyway, I guess I'll make some joints. Oops, I made too many. I've realized I've got my joint thing.
I was going to say, I think the joints are hidden. I do that all the time.
So what? Oh, I did this the wrong way around. Just imagine this is deliberate. So, bam, there's a leg. And so that's in FK. What you gotta do, I'm just gonna name these obviously because I'm gonna mess up in the end. So I'll call this hip. It's a hip. It could be hip.
Sure. Looks just like a hip.
And the knee. Did I spell that right? Yes, I did. Oh, I'm so slow at typing. I'm sorry, everyone. Oh, blame it on the 5 a.m.
Yes, that's a good excuse. And you're on a laptop. It's all dark outside.
I'm not on my usual setup either. So usually my cinema looks very different to this.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the vanilla layout. Some people modify the layout so much. I mean, I modify it sometimes for specific tasks, but some people's layouts, it's like, wow, how... what happens if you don't have your layout? What do you do?
Actually, for a while I had my cinema was actually I tried to change everything to be more like Maya.
Oh, that's a dangerous undertaking.
Yeah. And then once I had to do the SIGGRAPH talk, that's when I had to relearn, because I was like, no one's going to know how I'm doing this.
Yeah. No, lots of people do that. I remember when Chad was transferring from Max over to Cinema, and he made his own layout and everything to look just like Max. But it's like, how are you going to learn the new stuff?
Yeah.
If everything has just been merged to the old one, you have to update it every time.
So I made 3 joint systems. This one's the FK, so that's just FK. I'm making an IK, and then this is the rig that you actually bind to your character. Just, that's good enough. It's done. And then I've got to make espresso. I'll do the espresso on here. Where is it again?
What version are you in? R21? It's under the programming tags.
There we go. Okay. Sweet.
Using espresso?
Yeah. Well, this is the only way I know how to do it, because I learnt it in Maya, and then I just kind of did it in Cinema as well. It's been a very long time since I've done this, though, so please bear with me. I might forget.
No, carry on. But then
I think
I might be able to show you a faster way to do it, but I want to see your process first.
Oh man, I'm really thinking out of my I didn't think I was going to do any full-on rigging today, but I'm trying to remember the nodes that I have to do. I remember in Maya, I could open it up in 2 seconds and do it in Maya, and now I've got to remember how to do it in here.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not sure what you're going for, but you get the mix node might be what you're going for.
Yeah, the blend between the two to go that position of that. Yeah, I'm sure you will know this even more than me.
And just so everybody knows, a lot of rigging is this type of work, is building, doing all the stuff behind the scenes. So at the end of the day, an artist can just drag a single slider and be in 2 different modes.
Now, can't remember. Trying to think of what one it. Whether I use. Well, I would definitely. I'm sorry.
Well, talk me through what you're thinking, and I might be able to.
So basically, I just need to get the rotation of this IK joint and this FK joint, get their rotations, and then make basically this one would have a slider between FK, IK, and it would go from 0 to 1, and 0 being, it would be FK and 1 being IK, and then that's it.
Well, here, I want to show you something possibly. We'll see if this works. Can you save that into the shared folder?
Oh, yeah.
Just so I can work from it. And then hopefully the software doesn't crash and it lets me switch over to my screen. And I'll see if this works, because you got a nice clean setup there. And I might be able to show you that there's like a 3-click solution to this.
Bringing it over.
Yeah, let me know when you put it on.
I'm putting in scene files.
Come on, Dropbox. You can do it.
It's thinking. There we go. Should be there.
And there it is. Haha. Isn't the internet wonderful? Okay, I'm going to try and switch over to my screen. Okay, that worked nice and smoothly. Okay, I got the file over here. So, as Jess was talking about, we've got an IK rig, and then in theory, just based on the question, this was the FK rig that was coming in, and it's just doing its own thing. But here, if we have identical hierarchies here, then if I right-click on this one and add a rigging tag and grab a pose morph, then this is going to allow us to blend between different things. Now, usually you would use this if you're building like facial morphs and things like that. At least that's what I usually use it for. But in this case, we could tell it to look at the position and slow down there. Position and the rotation, and I want to look at the entire hierarchy. So if I turn that on, it should now be looking at the entire hierarchy starting with this root. So if I were to drag in, that's the first pose. I'm going to delete that first pose and drag in root 2. And I'm going to say, I can never remember if I want to say yes or no. I'm going to say I want a absolute one. So here's yes on absolute. So that should, yeah, you see it's now directly linked to root 2. And hopefully if this is working, and that would be, this is the IK one, so I'll rename it IK. And here is the first one, so I'll drag that over. Yes, and rename this one FK. If I set this to animate, it might not work right away because I always forget. And we want this to calculate last, so just for clarity, here's FK, IK, and this one is blend. So let's put these into different positions. So here is the pose. There's the IK one. Bent over. And grabbing this one, can we, under animate, do this? Okay, it's not working right away, but that might be because we need to switch this up one. Give me a moment to double check. There we go. Oh, it's a little crazy. Oh. So
yeah.
maybe turning on the position and rotation at the same time is a bad idea. I'm going to try...
Well, you only really need the rotation, not the
Just
position.
rotation might help, but there could still be trouble. But let's go back to animating it, and... Nope, it still twirls around. I'm not... I mean, there must be some sort of... I mean, that presumably this would also happen in the espresso, but these are spinning around in some crazy ways.
It doesn't have a goal, like a. I didn't put a.
The pole.
What do you call it? The pole. Yeah, I don't know if that'll work or not. Probably won't.
Also, just for clarity, I'm going to pull these out of that hierarchy because maybe it's seeing those a different hierarchy and it's confusing it. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I don't know if the pole fixed it or the... but now you can see that we have three different rigs. We have an FK and an IK. So this is now the FK IK blender. So we can just blend from one position to the other. So as long as we are in the IK, I can bend this. And now the other one is just automatically following it no matter what it does. And then we can go back to blending and pull that back. Oh, we're back to twirling. So there's definitely some gimbal lock or something happening there.
That's really interesting. I've never thought about doing it that way. I've always done the traditional do it in Espresso / the node editor in Maya. I guess because I learned rigging that way. I never really thought about... Because this kind of thing isn't in Maya. Like, you can't just put a pose morph tag on something and then just morph a joint to a joint. That's, like... unheard of. Oh my god.
And I even feel like the base pose should maybe be referencing the other. I'm going to switch the order. But anyway, there's a lot of combinations here. We could tinker with it more, but I'd want a more specific question for it. But yeah, and I can blend between these two. So you could have the FK, the IK, blend between just with this tag being turned on, linking them, and just turning on the basic checkboxes. And like I said, at a certain point in cinema, they changed this priority and base priority. So you always have to make sure this priority is at least one higher than the one below it. Otherwise, it won't refresh, which can really trip you up. They should really set the default here to be 1 so you actually see something when it's happening. Actually, this is a good question because I have actually contacted you on multiple occasions for your help on this type of thing. And people are talking about retopology. Somebody's asking specifically about retopology in R21, so in an older version.
Lucky, because I have R21.
Yeah. Well, and just for clarity to show, if I open up a sphere here, so you can see how the topography looks here, and I could really crank this up. Actually, I'll change it to icosahedron so that we get these crazy triangles. And in S24, they have the remesher built in. So if I put that as a child of it, you see it's going to attempt to remesh it into quads the best it can. I can say, hey, I want 10% of that. And now you see there's a way lower poly count, some triangles, but it's doing its best to very quickly make some cleaner looking quads. And this, obviously, this isn't great for setting up a character for modeling, but it is really good for maybe making something a lower poly object to run dynamics on and things like that. So there are a lot of use cases for this, but yeah, what's your general approach to doing retopology? Because your topology, you know topology pretty well, and I'm pretty terrible at it. I always end up just going onto the internet and trying to look up a bunch of reference. So do you have an example of something that you might want to talk about?
Well, everyone's going to hate me. I do everything by hand, and that's only because I like that, like, clean, like, you know, the edge loops and stuff. I guess I'll open something.
Yeah, we could. And that's what. Well, that's what. Yeah, I agree a lot. You figure a lot of people are looking for, and I'm not saying that the person who asked the question is looking for an easy answer, but oftentimes on the internet, people are looking for like that one button solution to something. And when it comes to characters and rigging and meshes, it's like, no, you have to know, you have to have the skills, you have to practice at it, and then you have to manually do it. We're back on your screen if you want to steer.
Oh, cool. Sorry.
No, just
I'll open something. Let's see. Let's open.
Maybe I could give you a bad mesh, and then you could open it and start cleaning it up.
That'd be good, because I'm struggling to find something that I haven't got bad.
Yeah, because all of yours are probably going to be pretty clean, because you built them to be clean.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can. I mean, mine aren't going to be like the worst, but they're not going to be super set up. So I'm still not showing my screen because I'm going through my folders.
That's all right. Man, I can't believe you can do that whole thing with Postmorphs. Guys, don't even bother with this. Man, this is hard work. But this kind of stuff really helps if you want to make a stretchy rig, though. I don't know if you can do that with Postmorph. Can you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, as long as one rig is stretchy, the other one will just blend to match it.
Hot diggity dang!
Tutorials. Where did I do my last character stuff? Maybe. Actually, no. I have probably something to grab.
Hi, chat.
24. Let's see. Let's figure out something to talk about while I'm tracking down files. People are talking about different techniques.
Yeah, I'm gonna read the chat.
Yeah.
Hi, chat.
Well, yeah. I'll just keep looking for the file. Give me a moment.
Oh man, this is what it feels like to stream.
Yep.
I really want to get into it, but I really need to get my shit together and get some actual. I need some stuff other than a laptop microphone.
Yeah, the setups aren't too crazy, but okay. I found a character. It's as clean as I could make it. That doesn't mean it's the best. And there's probably a bunch of. What do you call it? What do you call it when a bunch of bad poles in there as well that you would probably fight against. It's a relatively clean setup, so I'm going to send this your way. File, connect, subdivide. Okay, MP, save. All right, I'm saving it into the Dropbox folder. Scene files. _Chris, just so that it's identified. Okay, it should pop up in there. For YouTube, yes, we are streaming on Twitch and on YouTube at the same time, and we're checking the chat of both of them at the same time.
Download, woo!
I chopped it off so it's just the bust.
Hello.
So that's something I modeled a couple years ago. But let's say, I was gonna say let's pretend, but let's point out some bad areas in it, and then how would you go about starting to fix something? Or potentially we could just intentionally go and like break this a bunch. Like I could right now weld a bunch of points together that are like super messed up, and then you can talk about your process. So which is your preferred workflow?
I think, well, so just looking at it, you've got the eye, which is pretty good. You've got the loops around there. You've got a loop around the nose, which is awesome. I think just trouble areas would be here. I tend to try and I stay away from these kind of like the these poles in areas that like deform a lot more. Like obviously the mouth deforms a lot. Basically, how I'm one of those people that go in and break everything, but before I do that, I always duplicate it because I sometimes ruin it. But I live in the polygon pen M and E. I'm just so used to. I literally live in this, and then I just start chopping. And what I usually do is I try. Firstly, I make like a whole bunch of lines, and then just slowly, just to get rid of the poles. And then obviously that's I'm going to move that, and I use the M0 to move.
I like you're calling the tools by their shortcut, but you
I
do
don't
know
know
the shortcuts, which is important. Yeah, so you get the edge slide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sliding edges around.
Oh my god. You can tell that I never look at the name.
And that stuff gets wired in your brain. But then you're going to be like at some show or something talking to people, and it's like, you know that one tool, like the shortcut name?
The ME tool?
Yeah, ME. Come on, everybody.
The ME tool? This
opposite problem that most people have. People don't know their shortcuts, but
I learned it specifically just for SIGGRAPH, so then I wouldn't look like an idiot on camera. That's just like, oh crap, what is it again? Because I use this tool so much, but at the start I couldn't remember what letter was for what. Like even when I do extrude, I still have to like look at it and go, oh, what is extrude again? Or bevel, that kind of thing. Yeah. I was going to say this formation, how it's like kind of that point. I don't know how to explain. I'm really bad at explaining things. This is like the edge loop here with that formation. I usually oops, sorry, wrong button. I usually try and bring that as close to the ear as possible because it's like a really good jawline, like definition kind of thing.
So how would you chase it over there? Would it just be? Yeah, I am actually really curious in these types of topics because
I start breaking things, and then I can see that this area is quite large because what I like to do is usually have everything pretty same size.
Yeah, as even sized polygons as you can.
Yeah, even sized. So in this case, I'd probably just, do something like this. And then this is, at least I've moved the point down further. Sorry, I also put this on when I'm, oops, did I enable it? Yeah, turn that one off and polygon snap. So then at least it's like snapping.
And it's snapping to the mesh underneath it now.
The original mesh, yeah. I don't know why it's being a bit sensitive. I'll turn that off. Okay.
Is the snapping, click the snapping again.
I don't have vertex. Yeah, I don't.
You have quantize turned on. I think you accidentally clicked that. Or quantizing, turn that off. I think that's snapping to like every 10 units.
Yeah, there we go. I totally knew that. And
you
then
created that
usually
new corner there, but how are you going to eliminate the previous one? Or did you already kind of do that?
I kind of play around and then start breaking things. I don't really have a method. I'm just my method to madness is. Oh, that's getting pretty good. Damn. Yeah, I didn't even realize I did it, and then I literally just go around and I'm like, I don't like this here. I'll put that here. So now I can finally get rid of this weird line that I had before. Then I'm just gonna. I don't want to see. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. I'm trying to. But how come I can't? Oh, whatever.
The subdivision surface and the connect are going to stop you from visually seeing certain things. Subdivision surface always kind of overrides a lot, and the connect will as well.
Oh, I never used that one. Huh?
Yeah, it's just welding the two sides together.
Yeah. I don't know why it's got. Did I duplicate it on itself? I don't know. Oh,
I think it's just two meshes.
Connecting? Yeah. Sweet. So yeah, I cleaned that one up. Oh, I did it on the other bottle.
You're like, look how much better it is. Oh wait.
Oh my god! I got so confused there. I was like, what the hell? That's gone. Yeah, that's looking way worse than I thought. Anyway, let's pretend I knew exactly what I was doing there. Yeah, probably want to get that line back again. I swear I'm professional. I swear.
Well, also, FYI, everybody, Jess did a really great presentation about doing character topography for her first SIGGRAPH presentation. So you should definitely go check that out. If somebody can go track the link down, that would be appreciated.
So usually, this kind of thing can sometimes take a while if the mesh is like. I think usually when I start off with a mesh, there we go. Usually when I start off with a mesh, I guess I start factoring in. I think I spoke about it on my SIGGRAPH talk, because quite often I'll start off with primitive shape, like drawing the loops in, and I do specifically like 6 loops. So then I'm only working with 6. So like around the eye, I would have 1 and then 2, 3, 4 points. So then I'd have, how many is that? Is that 6 or 8? I can't remember.
Are you?
That's how many I usually. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally follow. Are you saying that you would, when you say primitive shapes, are you saying that you'd like put a bunch of primitive shapes and then like put them into like a volume mesher, just get a big blob, and then start drawing on the top of it?
Yeah. So I start off basically like.
Yeah. If you open a new file. Yeah, open the new file and show us a little bit of that process, because drawing the topography from scratch is probably a lot easier than fixing other topography, and this would just be a cool workflow. I remember a little bit of it, but it'd be really cool to see it. Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't just subdivide that in the first place. Sorry, guys. Force of habit. So let's say if it's like a humanoid kind of looking thing. Oh no, sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making some weird looking shape. There's no method to my madness sometimes. I'll put that in a. And then maybe I want the face to be slightly like this. And then I'll actually go out and then put on my it's still, yeah, it did it again.
Yeah, new file, forget something.
Yeah, and then I start like actually drawing an eye, which I always start off like this. Obviously, this would look way nicer if I actually knew what I was doing. I usually start off with a really nice sketch.
Yeah, you'd have an idea of where you're going.
Yeah, and then I do pretty much similar with the mouth. I usually only start off with, oh, what the hell? It didn't want that one.
I don't know where it went.
Yeah, it's gone. Sometimes the pen tool doesn't like it. So that's kind of how I start off, and then obviously I'll put symmetry. I have no idea where that symmetry is.
Yeah, it might be right. Maybe put a different material on it so we can see the two. Or it's a different...
oh my god, it's that way.
Oop, one more. First one.
It was the first one? Oh, there we go. Yeah, totally. There we go. It's big mouth. Tawny, scrawny frog mouth. And then, yeah, so then I start connecting. So then I have kind of the nose will go here and then drawing upwards. And it all depends on the way that you're... Oh my god. What? It depends on what your character looks like, I guess. This one is an ugly one. Oh, I don't know why it doesn't like my geometry there. Anyway. Yeah. Big move.
So, but you seem to be naturally building a particular shape. So essentially even just what you did, because I'm not entirely sure what your thought process was. You kind of lost me where I see you've connected things. I know the process you just did, but like where and why did you connect them the way you did? That's what I'm not 100% sure. Because it's like, okay, kind of outline the mouth, I get that. Outline the eye, I get that.
Yeah.
But then you chose to sort of draw in that particular shape for the nose as a connecting point. So this
is so then I can do like the edge loops going all the way up the eye kind of thing. And then so I can bring these out. Oh, wait, no. This off. And now I can bring out the nose. It all depends on what the nose is supposed to look like too. Like if the nose has got heaps of like more nostril, then I probably put in like an extra line in here, and then this all comes a bit later. Once I've got the base of the whole face done, then I will go in and start doing the more detail. But this is usually how I would do a nose, and then if I wanted to do a nostril, I would start chopping through. I usually start off by making a shape like this, and then going, okay, that's fine, and then I start making... getting rid of all of the triangles,
and then so now you can see those out.
Yeah, you just chop it.
You just chop it, everybody.
You just chop it. And then, like, these are obviously going to be sore points. So then, I guess this is just me going, I don't like this point. It's going to cause issues. And then I start chopping, and then trying to not add too much geometry in there. I say this, and then I'm just like naturally just doing this, and then people are like, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah, well, you know it too well, and you just have an intuition for it, so then it gets hard to explain the process. I guess to get more specific, you said like, oh, I see this point is going to cause trouble. Like, what makes you say that? Like,
so
keep going, and when you see a point that's going to cause trouble, stop and explain what's keying you in on that.
This pole, I don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's gone.
Okay. Well, why don't you like it?
So poles always, like, especially if you have a subdivision surface, there's always going to be some weird pinching. And then if you, like, for instance, I use like Mudbox or ZBrush, or Mari, you start texturing, or Substance, that's another one. I don't have Substance. I want it, but I haven't got it yet. Those kind of things that when you put in the subdivision surface, yes, it's got you can change the subdividing UVs, but sometimes it really doesn't work very well around these kind of weird points. And then also animation is a big thing too, because those kind of poles, you want to like, this pole is a good enough spot that it's not going to cause any issues with the mouth. You can't get rid of them altogether, like they're always going to be there at some point. But to try and move them in spots that you're not visually going to see it, or the pinch isn't going to be a problem, like if it's tucked under the nostril, or like this one, there's always going to be like one around the mouth, but I usually try and put it in the corners, behind the ears, behind the eyes, and then obviously in the head. Doesn't matter, no one sees that unless it's bald, but you know.
Yeah. But presumably the back of the head's not deforming too much.
Yeah, so those parts aren't really an issue. I think also, like, doing a lot of hard surface modeling, like I was building a little toy car the other day, and if you've got these kind of poles, they start doing weird things in the reflections, like depending how reflective your item is. But yeah, I try everything I can to try and hide them, whatever, trying to get rid of it. So yeah, that's my method, is basically I see it, I don't like it, I get rid of it. So yeah.
So you were talking about having a particular number of loops around the eye and around the mouth, but then when you just subdivided the nose, you created an extra subdivision in the top of the lip. So is that something that's just like, okay, that's more polygons now and it's just acceptable? Or is that something that you'll eventually kind of erase away or match on the bottom?
No, I deliberately start off, like, if I was going into this detail of the nose, I wouldn't do it right now in this process. I would have started off doing everything to these, to the 6. I do the 6 and the 6 around the mouth and the eyes. So then once I do the whole face, and then predominantly if the neck is continued on to the arms and stuff, it means that when I do the hands, the arms, the legs, I kind of know exactly how many points I'm working with, if that makes sense. So like, if it would probably take hours to actually get through this, but if I had the whole body, this edge loop is going to go all the way down to the legs.
Yeah, so you're saying that the number of loops that you've got on the mouth will determine the way it goes to the jaw, which determines what the poly count around the neck will be, which is now the poly count of the torso, which then will filter into the arms. Yeah. So like that cut on the mouth might eventually work its way down to like the toes of the character.
Yeah, I think it's like, in the first part of like modeling the base of the character, it is so much faster to work with less points. And then I put in the details. So if I had a character like the bubble wrap girl, she had a really big mouth. Obviously, she's going to have more points around the mouth. I started off with something like this, but really like big geometry, like they were cutting through because she's a very circular face. I had literally, I modeled it on a circle. And then slowly, as I started putting in the nose and the mouth, and then realizing, well, the nose looks really dumb if it's just coming out of a circle. So I started flattening the front of the face and stuff like that. But yeah, when she started off, I started off exactly the same way. And these, I only had this amount, like polygons around her mouth. And then slowly added in more as the detail went. Because if you're going to be moving around too many points, that's basically how I do it. I don't know if that works for everyone.
Yeah. No, I mean, I follow on one hand, but there is the tricky part of like the magic. The magic comes in on when you're deciding which ones to chase around, and then you're doing certain types of cuts that are opening up opportunities for you to eliminate it, but you're not even necessarily doing those cuts with a specific plan. You just know that this has opened up a possibility for you in the future. So as you
Yeah.
move things around, you're like, okay, cool. Now I've chased that away from where it was a problem on the nose. So, maybe that's traveled down the cheek and I'll eventually be able to hide it near the ear or something like that.
Yeah. So usually, so if in the process that I was doing, I would have continued over the head, and then in the ears, I would have made a loop for the ear to sit in, and then the loop for the neck going downwards. Once I've got, let's say I was just doing a bodice, and then, if I added in, I'm pointing at my screen, no one can even see it, I've got the mouse here. Once I start, this is an edge loop, once I start putting that in, it will cleanly go through all of the loops in a nice fashion. And then if I don't like where that extra loop has gone in, I'll start doing the whole thing where I start going boop, boop. And then, maybe I want it to go that way, and then I'll start chopping, and then that causes the edge loop to go that way, and then I, start chopping it that way. So it's kind of knowing the pattern of where you want your geometry to go. I guess I only just learned this by staring at everyone else's awesome models on Pinterest and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, the tricky thing, here's the step where I imagine people who don't know too much about topography would go. And I followed what you did, but I don't necessarily have those tools intuitively in my head, where you had that loop just cutting straight through the cheek from the nose to the cheek. And you're like, no, I want it to curve upward. And you essentially eliminated one cut and created another cut. And now it turned. And it was a very natural thing for you to do. So you get that little tool in your toolbox of if I want, this is a straight line, but I want to split up and split down. You have a method for doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's probably learning a couple dozen of those types of tricks. And you're just intuitively doing each of those cuts.
Yeah. And then it's just as soon as you see a problem area, you basically I just get rid of all triangles and try and move all poles out of the way. I've completely messed up this rig now, but I was just chopping. I'm like, woo!
Yeah,
let's go this way. Woo!
Yep.
And now I'm making the eye look really bad. Do not do this
You're
at
just
home.
having fun chopping around. So
yeah. Because oh my god, I hate it when this happens, and then you're just like, oh my god, it's infinite.
Yeah. Oh, you made a spiral. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Or maybe you're just trying to mess everybody else up so you don't have too much modeling character competition.
Yeah. No one else get good at it, because then I'll get hired for it. No, it's okay. Everyone do it, because then if I get your models, I won't get angry at looking at it. Because I get hired for all kinds of things. I get hired just to do the rigging, or just to do the lighting, or just to do the texturing, just to model. And when I get I think 2 months ago, I was just hired to do the rigging, and I got a character that was like this, and it was it was just subdivided, but they went like this. And I was like, what? I have to work with this.
So did you rig it, or did you end up doing a whole retopography on it?
So I literally only had 2 days to do the rig, so I just dealt with it, and I was like, you know what? This is not it was for a really low budget thing, and there was a whole bunch of characters, so it was I just left it as it was, and then if there was anything that was super obvious, the armpits and stuff, I just painted it out. But it's not what I like to work with. Lucky the characters were pretty simple, but it's come on guys, it's almost a circle. You could have just not done this. I think they might have made it in ZBrush, and then they didn't export it with lower res or something, and someone who doesn't really understand the whole that form and stuff. So yeah. I just I'm at the back end and just sitting at my computer just but then I get on the client call, I'm like, hello.
Everything's going great. Yeah.
And then get up and I'm like,
Let's see. Tobias was kind enough to put a link of your presentation in the chat. I also posted it over in the YouTube one, so people should go and check that out for sure. You go through essentially this process, but you're intentionally doing the correct lines in that, like your planned out ones.
Yeah.
For
and
a fully conceived character.
Like at the start with, how to do different lines and how to connect certain things. I think those kind of things are like, if you get that down packed, then you start seeing the patterns, and then doing something like this is like super simple.
Yeah. So are you? What version do you actively work in? Because you've got R21 here, but I know this is not your main machine.
Yeah, I have R23 on my other computer. So okay. Yeah, I started using. No, is it S? Is it S? It's this one.
Yeah, so it's R23 presumably, and then the new one is S24.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, R23. Yeah, because it's on my other computer, not this one. So
that makes sense. I just out of curiosity, have you been using any of the new character tools, like the new pose library for building? Do you ever work with like phonemes, or do you just do like straight ahead animation?
Mostly straight ahead, I haven't been hired to do any animation since I jumped onto R23, and most of the time clients, it depends on the I say clients, I should say studios, because I work mostly with studios. They are still on like R20 and R21, so if I start working with R23, it kind of throws them off. But yeah, it depends on the project, and if they want me to jump onto a different version, then I'm like, okay, I invoice you.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's like Maya, I invoice them to have Maya. I only have student version on here, but when they ask for client work, I've got the actual legit one on my desktop. Mm-hmm. So, and I still use Maya to do all my UV mappings. I tried in R23, and I was like, nah, I still like Maya. It's like one. It's like the polypen tool here, but it's similar, but in Maya, but for UVs, and it does everything for you in one tool.
No, interesting. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I know a lot of people for a long time were super complaining about Cinema's UVs, but I just hadn't really used any other software, so I didn't know what we didn't have. And the last couple of versions added a lot of good additional tools, but I still don't have anything else to compare to.
Well, Maya used to be bad as well, and I used to use 3ds Max to do UVs. So it's like it was a continuous okay, I've got this one to do UVs, I've got this one to do UVs. And so I got like all the different Autodesk things down the bottom.
Yeah. Have you gotten to play with the new tween tool, and is that something you would use in your workflow?
I don't even know what it is. What is it? Please show us what it is. Let's stop looking at this ugly face. Oh my god, I'm gonna delete this.
Okay, well, we're back on my screen now.
Yeah.
Let me open. I'm gonna try and track down what's new in 24. Open up the tutorial file. Where is the character? I don't know if I have any keyframes in here. Yeah, I do. So here's a very, very simple character I made a long time ago, and he's keyframed right now. But how did I time this out? Oh, I guess this one's already a little bit retimed. But the tween tool, I've got everything keyframed. So it's like, okay, here's a pose, here's a pose, here's a pose. So what the tween tool allows you to do, clicking on it will open up both in the viewport and in the timeline. So it's all about pushing keyframes forward and backward. So if I click +1, it's going to push the next keyframe forward 1. If I hold down Shift as I hit +1, it's going to push everything forward 1. So I can retime things just from in here. But even more importantly than retiming is the tweening. And what the tweening does is would be picking in between pose. Let me find a good one. Say like right here. Let's say I want to do an in between pose. So I could keyframe all of that, and now I've got this midpoint. But I can say, actually, I wanted this to be I want to blend this more into what the previous keyframe looked like. So it's kind of like he's holding this upper pose, but he's gone down into it a little bit. So this enables him to like really, he's going to ease into bending down and then suddenly snap into it really quickly. So tweening to grab any given keyframe and be like, no, go somewhere from the previous keyframe all the way up to the other keyframe and blending there. So it really lets you put that snappiness in quickly.
It's kind of like After Effects with the, in After Effects, they've got the, like, that was one thing I liked about After Effects is it has, like, the speed graph, and that's kind of similar to the speed graph, which that's really cool. Like, you don't have to do it all in the curves. You can kind of do it separately.
Yes.
Because sometimes the curves even fib, and then it's like, oh, my God, sometimes I get super pissed off at some of the curves. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's not fully retimed. This was the pre-file, but... and then the other great thing in S24 is the geometry only on playback. So now I can see all my spline controls here, but as soon as you hit play, everything disappears except for your final character geometry. So you can actually
that's nice.
Get really good play. And that's even while you scrub as well. So it's like, okay, that's what the character's doing. And then like, oh, you get your tools back again. Unfortunately, you and I spend a bunch of time complaining to them about the bad spline selections. They did not fix that.
Oh, no.
It's still a big pain to select splines.
Oh, that was the worst. Oh, that's the worst part about it. Like, oh. Yeah. I haven't touched my version in probably like 2 months. And then I go back to using R21 and I'm like, ah. Oh.
Yeah. It's, yeah, that was a bad change that they made. Well, yeah, this is the file I meant to open. So this is with him with no timing. Because when I like to do straight ahead animation as well, and I usually do it with no timing whatsoever. I just do my key poses, and then once I've got my key poses, then I'll come in here, and now it's great with the tween tool to be like, okay, how much time do I want there to be in this particular pose? And I can scoot everything forward, check out the timing, and I don't think I had everything selected, but yeah.
Yeah, it's better than having to select all of the points and then all the objects and then going in and then moving things manually, which I do.
Yeah, well, just the act of selecting like this, like trying to grab that, because it's always really awkward to grab this really small sliver, select the keyframes, and then moving them. You don't have to do any of that. You just do it by selecting the objects. And if you spend enough time in the tween tool, you get your key poses, you do your retiming, spend enough time with the tween tool, and you'll actually end up with some nice looking curves overall. And when you go in to clean up your actual F curves, there's not that much work to do. And this is the way I had done Animation Mentor back in the day, and that's a workflow that one of my teachers like really pushed. So that's kind of one of the ways I learned how to animate. And it was a way I liked.
It makes sense though. It's a lot simpler to change things, like than having to go into the curves, and because I only animate with the F curves. Like I don't use the other. What's the other window? What do they call it? Timeline dope sheet.
Oh yeah.
I use only the F curve. So
yeah, the timeline.
I only ever go into the dope sheet when I've like done visibility on something, or I have like switches and then I can't actually see the keyframes in F curve.
Yeah, I mean this makes sense if you've got like very mechanical things happening where you could select. How does this work? Yeah, I can select everything and move all of them together, but there's very little that you can do here that you couldn't already do in the F curves. And they did clean up the way the F curves look in this version as well. All the curves and everything look way nicer. The lines are thicker, and you can tell what you're selecting. If I select all these, if I select the line, with the version you've got, if you select a line, it'll highlight the whole line in orange, but now it just makes it thicker so that you don't lose the color where you're like, am I on X? Am I on Y? I don't know. So
yeah,
bunch of nice
that's awesome. I was literally trying to do that the other day, looking at my animation. I was like, oh my God, I don't know which one this one is.
Yeah. So yeah, they cleaned that up, and there's new default settings for the type of algorithm for like the way these curves work. So I don't know the specifics, but you can get like nicer, sharper curves where in the past you couldn't have done that type of curve I just did. It would be more of an S curve. But yeah, there's a lot of, in the last two versions, they have snuck in some really nice, more advanced character tools. So, and I've always thought that character stuff was underrepresented in cinema, because there's been really good tools for a long time, and now we've got even more advanced tools. But there's a lot to learn. I end up watching my own videos and my own tutorials sometimes just to remember how to use something.
Oh, I do that all the time. Especially rigging. Like, I have documents on my Google Docs of how I do rigging and stuff, because I forget all the time. If I haven't done it in months, like the fact that I couldn't remember how to do the IKFK, it's like I just go to my sheets, but I'm not even logged in on that account on here. I have like 5 Gmail accounts, and I only have my work one on here at the moment. So, oh man, I gotta get my life sorted.
Yeah.
Too many accounts.
You gotta refresh the notes every once in a while, where it's just like, okay, just throw that old book away. If it was important enough, I'll remember it again from scratch. Question came in from Mick. Is there any quick way to transfer a character rig and animation onto another character? What's your go-to for that type of thing? If you have a rig you already built and a new character coming in, and they have different topology, do you have any method that would work, or does it just kind of like rebuild it?
It depends on how different the character is. If the character is like, say the character is the same shape and size, like if you don't need to move the joints or anything, then it's super easy. You can just like, re-skin it to the new model, and even, go, what is it? Character manager VMAP. I don't know if it's the same. The
vamp
yours.
Tool, yeah.
Yeah.
That's old school, but yeah, there's
VAMP.
Yeah. Yeah, vamp, which it's
I don't know why I've read it as VMAP.
Yeah. Yeah, vamp. But that's just kind of a transfer all the weights and everything to the closest approximation on the other mesh.
Yeah.
Which
in terms
right.
of it's not the greatest, but it gets roughly the job done.
Yeah.
But then in terms of like animation from one rig to the other, it depends if the rig is got the same joint names or not. But I don't really have any quick way of doing that. Sorry, not me.
Yeah. Well, there's the newer workflow that I don't find it very intuitive, but it's not the type of work I do, where you get like the Mixamo mesh and the Mixamo rig, which seems to be a kind of a standard type of rig in the industry. And they've got the new what do they even call the tool? Is it just the character transfer tool? I'm trying to look. I think it's just a tag. Well, anyway, there are some new tools for, character definition. So you could do a character definition, and you could define dissimilar characters and make them transfer. But I've had it work amazingly, and I've also had it like not work at all. And I'm not sure what causes it to work well and not work well in different circumstances. So there actually might be some quick ways of doing it, but you'd have to learn the process for the quick thing to potentially work for you at all. Yeah.
I think, like, for me, I tend to break, like, the rigs and stuff or make things from scratch, and that doesn't really, like, I don't know how to code to do that kind of thing, to make animation go to one to the other. Like, I know some people who made scripts in Maya where any joint you click on, you can copy and then go to another one that has the same name and then paste the animation on there. But I don't know how to do Python. No, that's far beyond me.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
I wish, but
yeah.
One day I might do a Python course and then but for now, I'm getting by with what I can do.
Yeah, I wonder, is that a difference in style? Because in Maya, it seems like people do a lot more where it's like, they make a custom script to do this or use Mel and do some very specific task. Now, is that just because Maya is more for like a team of people and things are generally more complex? Or does Maya not have some of those tools so people end up making their own versions of it? I
think, it's like probably, I don't know if people make their own tools in cinema. I guess it'd be like the tools are in there, but they want to make it easier to use. Like I used to have an animation toolbar kit that I bought for like 50 USD or something back in the day when I used Maya, and it would have inbuilt like, you know, copy and paste keys from one to another, or like an autosave on just the animation that you had, not the whole scene. So then if you accidentally, like, you press save and then it saves your animation, then maybe like 15 minutes later you're like, oh, I've messed this up, and then you could go back. That kind of stuff is handy. You don't need it, but it makes things faster. So I don't know. I'd love to be able to make that kind of stuff, but, you know, I guess it's like how you made plugins too, so...
Yeah, that's a whole thing, though.
Yeah.
That's not casual. So I'm just curious in general where, you know, when people would tend to do that in other software packages. So do you ever end up working from any mocap data?
So far, no, because usually I do very stylized stuff, and then usually they get me to animate it. So...
Yeah.
Oh, it's my face.
Yeah, we weren't showing anything on screen.
Yeah,
I haven't worked. I mean, it's fun to play with the mocap data in Mixamo, and in the newer versions of Cinema, they include a bunch with it as well. It's fun to play with. It's cool to do a quick demo, but I don't know. A lot of it for me has always just gone to, no, just keyframe it. You keyframe everything that you want it to do, and now you have a character. And so all of the mechanical tools for blending pre-built animations, it's like, well, yeah, that's super useful in a video game engine when it needs to be interactively doing these things.
Yeah.
But that's always just
I would love to play around with like mocap or something, especially if it was like a hand or something. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
Because that, like, hand rigs in themselves, like, oh my god. I remember in Maya I tried to learn how to do hand rig where you could, like, I'll go to the camera, where you could, like, make this part, instead of rotating from this part, it would rotate from this part of the hand, and then you could turn it to rotating just from the finger. That was, oh my god, that was hard. I did it for the right hand, but then I couldn't do it for the left hand. So yeah.
What would cause it to break on one and not the other?
Well, the thing was, the tutorial that I watched, it like went through, and mind you, I did this tutorial, it took 4 months to do one side of the body, and I was learning how to do rigging at the same time, and that was where I learned how to do FK, IK, stretchy rig. There's still like a lot that I still want to know how to do. Like, even in Maya, I couldn't work out how to do these really cool infinite twist spines, which were cool. I haven't managed to work out how to do that myself. But then at the very end of the course, it was like 21 videos. At the end, they're like, okay, now for the left-hand side, you got to do it all again. And I was like, what? There's no, like, flip?
It's not a mirror
You can't
tool?
flip it? Yeah. And so I couldn't, I had to do it all again. And then once I got to the hand, for some reason, it just wasn't working, because the maths, you have to do it backwards. And then some people in the comments were like, oh yeah, you got to times it by -1 in some of the parts, and then that worked. But if the guy didn't say that in the video, then I would never have known. Read chat, read the chat.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, man, I wish I knew more about rigging as well. Like, there's only so much I know.
Yeah, it's so tricky to do so many things, especially mirroring it. Here's an old. I must have made this hand rig like 15 years ago, and there's like so much espresso. Yeah. So you see, I'm doing all like the blending and the range mapping and like all these just direct connections, and to enable me to, I think it's animated. Yeah, to enable me to do, like, open all the fingers, close all the fingers. Just bend everything in the correct spot with just a handful of sliders. Oh yeah, look at all the crazy keyframes going. I mean, it's fun, but it's like this is like a multi-week exercise just to get that all built up and rigged and working out to this degree.
Yeah, and that's the same with like the way that you did the pose morph thing just to go between IK, FK, whereas I would do that whole tree of stuff that you've got in there.
Yeah. Well, and there are reasons to do that sometimes, especially if certain things are getting remapped differently or how they're blending. Yeah, pose morph. You got to learn the pose morph tag because it's super duper useful in a lot of places.
Yeah, I only use it for doing blend shapes / pose morph shapes on objects. I use it a lot.
Yeah.
Especially to like correct things, like if I do the arms and stuff. I think my second SIGGRAPH talk, Maxon talk, I did how I use Espresso to use like the arm, like for instance this shirt, and I didn't want it to be floppy, and then I just go automatically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so going to a pose where it looks bad, doing a morph, and then automatically driving that morph for when it gets near that pose, it blends into it.
Yeah.
I will go ridiculously far out of my way to not have to do that, like putting so many extra joints in to like automatically do blending points between other spots, so that's like, nope, don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I can get to the point where I've got like 5 different pose morphs on the like an elbow or the armpits are the worst. Armpits and bums are the worst because they multi-rotate. They rotate in too many different directions, whereas like the elbow, it only bends one way, you know. But then that's one thing I hate about the Maxon's default rig, that when you go into IK, because I hate doing it only if I have to put the hand and to lean on something or something. The way that the joints pivot from the shoulder goes very unnatural. It's very annoying that like I can't rotate. I don't know. It makes sense because like the shoulder, the elbow doesn't move like up and down really. It moves from here. But I hate how it doesn't rotate. It rotates only from the shoulder joint. It doesn't rotate any of the points in between. Like it doesn't make it like seamlessly. So then you end up getting this ugly shoulder joint that's just like.
So you're talking about like the character builder in cinema that's like default behavior? Oh, okay.
And I know it's like very minor and I get really pissed off about it myself, but I don't know if anyone else gets that. I get really annoyed by it.
But see, even that, I feel like a lot of people don't even play with a character builder. I mean, I don't because I like rigging.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's fun to build exactly what I need something to do. And the rigs that cinema comes with are trying to do a lot of things, which means there's a lot of extra baggage that comes along. Like if you don't, if you know for a fact you're not going to need your character's legs to have IK on them, or you always need IK on the legs, but if you don't need IK on the arms, then it's better for it not to be in the rig because that's just going to slow you down.
Yeah, it was like I worked on the same girl that I worked on. It was a pregnant lady, and I animated her walking, and then she comes up to a fence, and then she puts her hand on the fence. And in the process of putting her hand on the fence, obviously her hand has to turn from FK to IK. And yeah, it's seamless and all, but then all of a sudden the shoulder goes from being really nice to and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I've just animated it beautifully and I can't rotate the shoulder anymore. So I had to put in like a really full-on pose morph in there just to like fix the shoulder, that it didn't look like it was rotating crazy in like a few frames.
Let's see. What's something we haven't tackled that would be cool to talk about? Are there any areas that you've been focused on lately in cinema?
Me?
Or in 3D in general?
I've mostly just been trying to get better at my lighting and texturing. That's been me so far. What else have I been? Not much else. I've been very like preoccupied with other things other than learning new tools in the last couple of months. So I do admit, like, I remember when I had a chat with you when I was doing some rigging things. I remember when we were going through the zip lip. That was cool.
The zipper mouth.
Yeah. And then I remember we tried to do something with a really experimental spline backbone or something. And I don't remember if that ended up working out or not.
Well, that's when you showed me that that really inspiring crazy cat rig that somebody came up with, or some studio. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen still. I've got that saved in like a reference folder of like, what is even happening here? I don't even understand.
So good.
What's it called? I want to find it. I'm going to pull it up on screen and show people because you got to check out this stuff. It's ridiculous.
I remember I found it from Cartoon Network, so maybe... Oh, I know it's on my Pinterest. It's on my Pinterest.
Okay.
Let's see if I can load.
I'll check the chat while you're tracking it down. Tobias shouting out recall. Some other time.
Recall, yeah.
Not a time. People talking about MIDI-driven animation tools. Like Anim Music. That's going way back.
Oh man, I have too many Pinterest boards.
Pinterest is pretty great. I use it all the time, and I actually have a lot of hidden boards because it's like referencing things for tools and whatnot that we're working on. But it's gotten to the point where I also use Google image search a lot for a lot of things, and so many things are just linking directly to Pinterest, and that like creates this dead end feedback loop. It's like Google images need to start excluding Pinterest because then it's always linking to some dead image that never goes back to the original website.
It's Mindbender on Vimeo.
I'm going to try and track it down.
They're so good. They're from Sweden. Oh my god, I didn't know that.
All right, let me put my screen up. Check this ridiculous rig out, everybody. There we go, it's still working. Mute the tab. Like, this thing does so many crazy things. I can't even conceive... Oh, it says there's no audio.
This was, like, what I wanted to be able to make something like this. It'd be amazing.
Well, see, it's like, all this... It's like, okay, get that. We could do that. We could do that. No problem. The eyes are squishing really nicely, but I think I get it. And it's like, okay, that's getting a little crazy, but maybe I can...
That's definitely an FFD.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But then... It just keeps going. Like, we're only just getting warmed up here.
Yeah. The part where things start to, like, move, this stuff is crazy.
All right, yeah.
I feel like when I make a rig, I usually put it in the weirdest positions as well, but this is too extreme where that you can, like, that's crazy. I love it. I love it so much.
It's so good. Like, look at that thing. Just made the mouth wrap around the entire head.
So creepy. That's obviously like they would have used blend shapes, but certain things I don't know how they did. Like,
yeah, look at this. Like, I want to know what the mesh looks like underneath there. You could see a little bit of pinching, but
they used hair on top of it anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Those are all.
It's all fuzzy. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of like, this is crazy. Oh wow, that's so extreme. Yeah. That's extreme.
Yeah, this is where it just gets ridiculous. Like, that's so inspiring. It's so ridiculous.
The part that I always wanted, because I know that I can do that kind of stuff with pose morphs and blend shapes, but the part that gets really crazy is the fact that they also can move the teeth and stuff at the same time. They must have blend shapes on those too.
Yeah.
But then also the fact that you can still manipulate the mesh without it looking super deformed in that such deformed state. I don't know how they do that, because like if I made my character have their mouth to one side to extreme and you start moving like the controllers, you start getting like weird movements because the vertices are like super far out of what it used to be. So I don't know how they do that. That part, it just blows my mind. It's like, wow.
It's like, oh, here's just a whole cat body. Like,
there's a whole body there.
So, well, I mean, this is obviously in Maya, but you were talking about, well, it's like, is there just a, like, see that leg? Is that leg a separate piece of geometry entirely? And then it's just blobbing into it? Or is it? Because you can tell with the paws were, they just selected a piece of geometry.
Definitely.
So, I'm not entirely sure what's going there, or how you could get UVs to lock on there, or, and they got a bunch of jiggle. Yeah, look at this thing. It's all the same rig.
It's so good. One day.
Yeah, you just stare at it and wonder.
Dude, this is nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Oh, they made Dobby now from Harry Potter. Like, I don't. What are we even seeing here? That's. Like,
It's
this
not
used to
even
be
a
a
cat
cat.
anymore.
And then it morphs back to a cat.
I love this part. It's so good. Now that I have a cat, I understand all of these.
All of these are completely accurate. It's kind of horrifying from the
the back of it looks hilarious when they show the back.
Yeah.
So good.
Mind bending. And it indeed is mind bending. Jeez.
Whoever is in charge of doing that stuff's crazy.
So good. But I don't even know how much of that would be, like, is even physically possible to consider in cinema.
Oh, someone's put octopus rig.
Well, let's check out the octopus rig.
In Twitch chat.
Yeah, so if somebody said this is made in cinema, let's check out what we've got here. So who made this, first of all? Whippix.
Oh, dude, that's kind of what I want to know how to do.
Blah, blah, blah. Waves. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, look at that.
There's some maths going in there.
I think you are right.
These are kind of things that I wish I knew how to do, but oh my god, it's very far beyond me. So maybe Houdini artists.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I will never ever,
go
if someone ever asks me to make an octopus, I don't think I'll ever make one. Like, no. That's crazy.
That's super cool. I'd love to see a breakdown of that.
Yeah.
That rig, but just for the mechanical parts that are happening inside of it.
They're keeping that secret.
Maybe they've got some stuff in there, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'll save that tab for the show notes later. Oh wait, I think it's in Firefox instead of Chrome. So yeah, super duper crazy, everybody. Yeah, that should be the next Rocket Lasso Slack challenge. Is everybody make an octopus rig?
I gotta watch that, please. Try and make it. I remember like watching this guy this is when I was really wanting to get really good at rigging in Maya. They had this guy who works at Buck and in New York, and he's like virtually impossible to get a hold of. Like, I could only find his LinkedIn, and even at that, he did not reply to my message when I was like, oh my god, I love your work, can you please? I'm that weirdo that everyone hates when someone's messaging going, how do you do 3D?
Yeah, cold calling. And like,
yeah, I tried to be more specific, but it was like, he used like gradient maps to change how his like between, you know, the bendiness between the shoulder, the elbow, and then the wrist, that you could make it go like squiggly, but then also have the points that you could move it around. I think like in I haven't played around with the latest character updates, but like in the R21 you can like animate it to curve just one curve, but you can't make it have multiple curves, which is cool. And then also like, you know, the whole Adventure Time squiggly arms, I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah. Well,
but I know how to do that.
Wouldn't, if you wanted to have curves on curves, wouldn't you just layer up 2 sets of them? I don't know if I'll be able to show any of this. So my thought being making a joint, and I want just a bunch of them, so I'm going to make a child of a child of a child of a child, and set them all to be 50 apart. Oh, and same thing on mine. Joint. Okay, show them. Yeah. So I got a whole joint chain going there. Should I do more? I feel like I should do more, but you get this very detailed joint chain. But then if I took this and make it, how many joints are there? 32. I guess with the doubling that makes sense.
Punji.
I'm trying to see how many there are, but if you took that and then made a series of joints, if you just made this joint chain and you rigged it up so you could have like an elbow there, and then these become secondary bending arms, couldn't you make these? You know, they're trying to be mapped onto a spline, and that spline's controls could be on here, but then there could be secondary controls on these individual ones, right?
I guess so. I guess it gets more tricky if you want it to be IK as well.
Yes, of course, like all of the blending. Let's see, I'm gonna make the correct. I'm trying to think if there's any way I can do a very quick version of this. So if you do your base arm like that, and then we have this one map on, and then we map this one, doesn't seem like it's an even count, but let's try.
I'm assuming you would bind your character to the one with the multiple.
You would ultimately bind it just to this one, and all the other ones are just like secondary layers. Tag. Okay, end, goal, pole. So now we'll set the elbow direction. I guess it naturally wanted to be this way. It always goes the opposite of what you want it to.
Well, if it's straight.
See, it did it backwards. It's a thing you're supposed to do in cinema. It needs to know what direction is the actual end goal. So you want to make sure when you're putting in the goal, first bend the joint a little bit. So now it's like, oh, I know what direction is supposed to be the bend. Otherwise, it's a perfectly straight line, and it doesn't know what the natural orientation should be. So now that I've done that, I should be able to... actually, because I already broke it, maybe it'll stay broken. I'm not sure. But... does that? Yeah, see, now it bends the correct direction because I pre-bent it that little bit, so now it knows what I want to do.
It's not dumb.
Yeah, there's a logic to it, but it's always like, you got to pre-bend the joints even just that little bit to make sure that it works. But anyway, now that is bending, I would like to take the secondary one. Let's put these in order. So let's put, what do we call it? Well, first of all, I will convert this spline, character tool, convert joints to spline. So that makes a spline out of them. And that spline is going to have too many points. I don't want all of them.
Yeah.
So, I guess actually I'll just, there's other ways to do it, but that now gives me a 3-pointed spline. So that will go up here. I want this joint chain to be rigging IK spline, and that spline will be this spline. And the end joint will be that end joint. So now it needs handles 1, 2, 3 because we have 3 points. So these, and we can even say create, create, create. So there are now 3 nulls. So this null should be a child of this point, and I'll reset the PSR. They changed the icon for reset PSR, which is really throwing me off. Here's the start one, so I'll make a child of that, reset the PSR, and here should be the elbow. That goes and becomes a child of the elbow. It'd be a good idea to do these with constraints instead of just making them children, but this is the quick way of doing it. So now what's hopefully happening is you can see that my secondary spline is following wherever this elbow goes. So this becomes like, this is like the goal of the elbow. But I could then put a secondary control underneath this and call this, elbow bend animate or something like that. And let's say that this is actually not trying to go to goal elbow, but goal elbow animate. So now I would turn this into some sort of control. So let's change the visibility to be a circle, a larger circle. So now you can see that there's actually a object, that now has a circle that I can select and move. So now I can get this secondary bendiness out of it from that second arm. But if I grab the original IK arm, you can see I can still bend that arm. The elbow bends nicely, but then I can say, hey, my secondary control, I want you now to be bent and deformed outward and have more curve. We could give it a handle as well. Clearly we should set this to the IK spline. Currently the length is set to fit, but I'm going to say I want it to be equal, which is going to stretch it out. So now that this automatically becomes sort of a bendy rig. So using this control, I can bend that elbow out further. And there are controls inside of the handles. Actually, why are they grayed out? Oh, I think I need to change this spline type. Change this to a Bezier spline. And that should unlock it. Yeah, so now we have a depth slider on there. So you can see I've got this depth slider, and if I pull this out, it is now looking at this both for rotation, but the point being is I can now stretch out this depth, so this can actually be a kind of a bendy elbow. And something I like doing is driving some parameter. So you can see I've got this radius. Does it scale? Yeah, see I can hit T for scale and scale this up and down. So it's kind of the control. A very simple thing we could do is say radius, animation, expression, set driver, and then I want to drive the depth. So animation, set driver, I guess we could do relative. I will say absolute. So now I could not only move this elbow to get that curvature, but I can also T for scale and change the curvature. So that's all kind of controlling in one control. But if we took this entire concept, and I can also just hit reset transform, it'll put it back on the elbow. I guess the rotation would have to be automatically set to 50%. But you see how we could blend between those. So then my thought is like, okay, now we kind of have this bendy arm, the simplest version possible. But then we could do that exact same concept again with this one. I don't think I'll do it because it'll take too long. But we could convert that to a spline and then map that spline to a control here and a control here and a control here and just layer those all up, so then we can get a secondary level of deformation on top of everything. And then ultimately you don't bind to the simple elbow. That's just helping us do some basic character animation. We ultimately bind onto the final spline or the final joints down there, and you could get the extra bends out of it. That's my thought.
And you could even break it in half and have the spine, one spline going from the shoulder to the elbow, and then another one from the elbow to the more control.
Yeah. This entire thing could be half the length, and that would just go from here to there, and make a completely unrelated one from here to here to do even crazier bending and transitions. Rigging is like an endless line of like cool, crazy things you can do, and you can kind of do anything you want. But you have to pre-plan it all out, do it very logically. And of course, that's when everybody falls into the trap of the order of operations has to be correct. In order I could break this simply by moving this object below this one. And now there will be a frame of lag because this will calculate before that calculates. So the rigging is the most, I think rigging, besides like literally coding, rigging a character might be the most technical thing you can do in CG in general.
I always wanted to do courses on how to do this stuff, but they don't really have it out there. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go into a coding course, and I'm like, no, but that's just a programming course. I'm going to learn how to do a program, but I'm not necessarily going to know how to use it in a rigging kind of way. And I think also being a rigger, if you know how that you want to animate your character, I find I know a few people who do rigs, but they don't know exactly like how a human form would move, and then it's just like, well, if you don't know how you want to animate it, then you're not gonna make it very well.
Yeah, that's probably the camp I fall into. Like, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go straight ahead and make it, and it's like, oh wait, I don't actually know how the shoulder actually bends. So maybe I should have figured that out first.
But you can kind of get away with it if it's like really stylized. I think that's why I stick with stylized stuff.
It is kind of like I'm saying this in the nicest way possible. The stylized characters are kind of like a cheat button, because if you have a stylized enough character, a lot of people just animate it with a bend deformer. In spite of how easy it is to make a joint chain, like you could just do it with a bend, and then after that it's like, okay, it could just be cartoony and bendy, and you don't have to worry about realistic bending. It's even like you can do the noodly arm type things are getting popular. I think EJ has a plugin as well. It's like, okay, here's this disconnected noodly arm, just plug it into your character, like plug it into like an Apple model, put some googly eyes on it, it's like, boom, you got a character. But it's like, okay, now model a somewhat realistic human. Okay, now model a photorealistic human. It's like, okay, whole new ball game.
And also, like, I think I got into stylized stuff partly because I didn't want to go into, like, you know, the people who just make ZBrush, like, faces that are super realistic for, like, Game of Thrones or something. And then to the detail, like, you know, a pimple or something, or, like, trying to, you know, deep fakes and stuff. That stuff, like, to me, is boring. I like the more, like, you've come up with something that doesn't exist. Like, I guess, like, making a dragon, it doesn't exist, but, you know, making a stylized dragon, that's even more far from what is real.
Like, even though, I'm totally with you, like, even though, like, straight up, like, you know, making the photorealistic thing, it's more impressive on, like, every level. As a technical achievement, but at a certain point it's like, okay, well, that's just a tech demo now. Like, you just did some really hard math and you made it exactly real. Like, where's the artistry in that? Which is, I feel like, a mean way of thinking about it, but I think it is now, a natural intuition.
People can, you know, those camera balls, and they take photo like 3D objects of someone's face now. Like, people don't even have to model them anymore. It's like, oh, now the computer's taking my job. Yeah.
Well, I think even somebody in the chat was like, oh, I'm just waiting for an AI that will do the retopography. I don't know if they're joking or not, but, like, yeah, it's true.
And then that's where my job goes.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely true on some level.
Oh, it's going to get to the point where I'll be obsolete. No one will pay me any more money to do any 3D, because the computer can just do it. Just one button. Beep.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole huge topic that I've had conversations for hours and hours with people about where AI might be going and the things that it might eventually take away, where it's like there is, like, no job that is safe from where AI might eventually go. So, like, maybe eventually, like, drawing the ones I almost imagine would be first to go would be, like, certain landscapes where it's like, hey, here's a photo of kind of a mountainscape I want, and then scribble some lines, and it's like, okay, cool, it just generated, like, a photorealistic mountain with the environmental settings that you wanted. Like, okay, cool, you don't need an environment artist anymore. And then, you know, it's like, oh, I want this type of forest, this type of tree, this type of river, and it just do it from like a hand-drawn scribble. But it's gonna get nuts.
Well, AI's already making, like, pop songs and stuff, so...
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's gonna... Well, I definitely think a computer could definitely make, like, a noodly person. Like, you know, could just do that, probably. Just make that.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody... I mean, you could go and, like, train an AI right now to be able to do that type of thing. But
I like to think creativity is hard to get an AI to, you know, at least, like, learn human sympathy. I guess maybe people who, I don't know, they're psychologists and stuff will keep their jobs because everyone's going to be going mental.
Yeah, I feel that's supposed to be a thing where, like, the safest jobs are going to be things like being a nurse. Like
Yeah.
it's highly likely that some point in the not too distant future that it'll be more valuable to be a nurse than to be a doctor, because like the doctor's job will be taken over by AI, because it can like look at the blood work, look at like the x-ray scans and be like, okay,
So
here's
true.
exactly what's wrong with you. But as far as like interacting directly with the patient, like, now you need the, human skills, and the AIs will not be as good at that. Although I think people will be surprised at how good that gets and how quickly that comes around as well. But
at least AI probably could lift a person out of bed. I don't know if they could, like some of the stuff nurses do, even like just caring for people. I don't think you can get that from a robot.
yeah, but then you look at how attached people get to like their Sims or something like that, where there's like no layers. Like just imagine if there's like a proper AI that was like friendly and polite and did cutesy
Maybe.
things every once in a while. Like I bet people would get attached to it very, very quickly.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
This is this is like going into movie territory.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's good features and bad features, and we'll just have to see where it all shakes out in the end. But anyway, here I've made the slightly more advanced version of this while we were talking. Also, the software froze up again, so I can't go off my screen. So also, I'm just really frustrated at the software, because first of all, I pay for the software. I might switch to OBS if this is going to keep on happening, because I figured the paid software would do better. But
I have OBS on my computer.
I mean, it's gotten a lot better, and it was always pretty good. So, but I updated all the drivers, I updated the software, I rebuilt my entire like interface again from scratch in it, and it's still freezing up. So,
Damn.
I don't know what to do with it.
We're stuck on your screen now.
Yep. Well, let's see if there's any other final questions from anybody. And
anyone
we'll wrap
wanna
it up.
ask questions?
I don't know if you're gonna sneak back into bed and get a couple of more hours of sleep, or if you're just up for the day now. But.
I feel like I'm just up now. I'm just up. I have a call at 9, so in 2 hours. I feel like if I go back to sleep, I will not wake up.
Yeah. Well, maybe just start working 2 hours early and then call it an early day.
I actually did so much work yesterday. I've got barely anything to do this morning.
Yeah, when I was messaging,
Yeah.
well, because the time difference here obviously is insane. Like you're fully in a different day than I am. So we even had to. Yeah, I'm used to having to like figure out the time differences in the U.S. where if somebody is a guest from New York or in L.A. or something, it's like, okay, you're 2 hours ahead, you're 2 hours behind, and it's like, let's make sure we're on the right day. So
I'm in the future.
Yes,
I really do miss the like just jumping on the chat and stuff like that. Like now I have like other people that I chat with, but not like the US. Oh, I do talk to a lot of people in the US that are up really late, which is cool. But I could talk to them when I was in London, so I feel like I miss out on my European friends.
Yeah.
And like I miss your stream because it's way too early for me. If it started like now, I guess I could like wake up at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. sometimes I wake up. My cat wakes me up, so.
How many cats do you have now?
Just one at the moment,
and
she's going back in 2 weeks, which is sad.
Oh yeah, you're fostering.
Yeah, I'll get some more.
But anyway, I don't want to keep you for any longer. Thank you so much for waking up super crazy early to come and hang out with everybody and talk character stuff.
That's all right. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming. There's links to all of Jess's stuff in the descriptions below, especially when this gets reposted. And then the screen's still up, so I'll pull this over. If you're not already, you can join the Rocket Lasso Slack channel. Just head on over to rocketlasso.com. And then if you click on community, actually it's like right here, you can click on community, but head over there and there is a sign me up for Slack right there and you can join. There's a really cool community of people helping each other out, asking questions, answering questions, and different people run cool little challenges like sketching and modeling challenges. Like those happen like every week and every month. So head on over and join there. Also, I'm going to be having a new plugin come out almost exactly a month from now is the schedule. So no hints about that yet, but information will be coming soon. That should wrap this up. Thank you so much, everybody. As I said, the software is already frozen, so there won't be any credits today, but I'll see everybody next week for a regular episode. In fact, I don't have any more guests lined up. I had so many guests lined up in a row. I think we'll do a couple weeks of just regular episodes. But that'll wrap it up. Thanks so much, Jess.
That's all right. Yeah, it's
And
been fun.
I gotta open up the force quit to actually stop the software. So, okay, that'll do it, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye, chat. Bye, everyone.
And exploit.